Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed spring break and are ready for a little more King Arthur reading. So, this is Book 2, Chapter 6, Sir Gawain and the Lady Ragnell. So, before we start, we have Gromer Sommerjour, a giant knight, cursed by Morgana Le Fay. Then we have Lady Ragnell, which is Gromer's sister. So these are the people we have in this chapter that are new. Vocab-wise, indistinct means vague or hazy. I have an indistinct memory of reading this once before, but I can't recall it very well. Anguish. I was in anguish when I felt out I couldn't see my students for 2 months. Tremulous. His voice was tremulous as he asked his girlfriend to marry him. Tremulous, trembling. So these are our new vocab for this. So once again, we're at King Arthur's and a holiday. This time it's not Pentecost, it's actually Christmas. Also, I want you to think about this question and post it under where I posted this on Google Classroom. So why does Morgana keep trying to kill Arthur? What is the deal with that? So be thinking about that as we read. One of the strangest adventures in any that befall during the reign of King Arthur began on a Christmas day, not Pentecost, when the king and a number of his knights were holding their feast in the castle Carlisle. Not long before this, Arthur and his knights had found a great battle against the Saxons far up in the north east of Scotland, and driven them out of the whole island of Britain, and it seemed at last that the realm of Logres was finally established throughout the country. Southwards marched the armies once more. King Arthur had chosen a band of his best knights, following more slowly, and Christmas overtook them before they were well out of Scotland. So to Carlisle they came, and the great feast was set. But the banquet had scarcely begun, when there came into the hall a fair damsel, weeping and wringing her hands. "O King Arthur," she cried, "my lord King Arthur, grant me a boon, I beg of you. The brave knight my husband has been overcome and carried away by the wicked master of Gawain Castle. It is a terrible place, that castle rising darkly on the black rock high over the deep lake of Tarn Watheln. And there the dreadful master of the castle lies in wait for unwary travellers, carries them off to his stronghold, robs them, holds them to ransom, or casts them from the walls into the deep waters of the lake. It was but yesterday that, as my lord and I rode deep in the forest of Inglewood, the dread knight of Tarn Watheln came suddenly upon us. My husband he smote from his horse and carried him away bound, and after he had sorely misused me, you may see all the cruel marks of his whiplash across my face. As the knight rode away, I cried after him that good King Arthur would come swiftly to avenge the wrong that had been done me, but he laughed evilly and shouted, "Tell yonder cowardly king that he may find me when he will at town, for indeed I know well that he will never dare to stand against me. So I have come swiftly to you, most noble King Arthur, for if any man in this world dare stand against him, it is you."
"Now, by my faith as a knight," cried King Arthur, "this adventure will I dare myself. It is long since I rode out along in quest of adventures, but this night shall fall beneath no spear but mine."
"Let me go rather, my lord," said Sir Gawain. "Maybe some evil shall befall whomever rides to this haunted castle of Tarn, and without you the realm of Logres cannot endure."
"I thank you, good nephew, for your love," said King Arthur gently, for he loved Gawain better than any of his knights. "But this time I will not be turned from following a quest myself. Bring me now my sword Excalibur, and my spear Ron, and bid my squires saddle my horse with all the speed they may.
Yeah, he called his spear Ron. That's weird, right? So he called his spear Ron. What's the deal with that? Well, here's the deal. Ron Gominiad means spear plus slayer. It is the name of Arthur's spear or lance. It is mentioned in some other works and later on, and they end up eventually just calling it Ron, uh, which is strange. I mean, Excalibur is one thing. Um, Ron seems very strange, but apparently it used to be Uther Pendragon, which is Arthur's father, used to be his spear, Ron. So anyway, Arthur leaves with Excalibur and Ron and Gawain at his side. Then, though Gawain and Lancelot, Geraint and Gareth sought to persuade him to let one of them undertake the adventure, even Sir Kay offering himself as a champion, which says a lot because Kay is kind of a chicken. King Arthur rode away from Carlisle with the damsel and was soon lost to sight in the dark forest of Inglewood. Many and many a mile they went until, just as the sun began to sink toward the great hills and mountains of Cumberland, they came out of the forest onto the shores of the dark lake, with black, angry rocks going sheer down into it on every side, and saw a grim, forbidding castle set on an island a little way from the shore. "There it is, and see, here comes the loathly knight himself." King Arthur looked where she pointed, and saw the great drawbridge of the castle sink lowly until it rested on a rim of a rock where the road ended on the shore. And sitting on a great horse in the castle entrance was the most terrible man he had ever seen, and the largest. He seemed almost a giant. He seemed with his long arms and his huge face.
"Ha ha!" roared the knight. "Is that Arthur, the mulling monarch of miserable Logres? Long have I wished to meet you. Welcome to the castle of Tarn. I am Gromer Sommerjour, and I defy you, coward king."
Arthur was so angry he waited for nothing, nor did he pause to think how strange were all the things that were happening that day, nor to see the wicked smile which came suddenly to the lips of the damsel. He set his spear in rest, and mighty spear which none might withstand, Ron, and rode at the knight as hard as he could. Down the road he went, over the ledge of rock, and on to the long drawbridge, and then suddenly his horse stopped dead, neighing in terror, and his own arm sank powerless to his sides, while a fear came over him so great it was not of this world.
"Gromer Sommerjour!"
shouted the knight, and he laughed until the hills echoed his voice, and the carrion crows flew screeching from the towers of the castle.
"GSJ has conquered. No man may withstand the terror of him."
"This is the devil's work," gasped Arthur, the very hair of his head rising with fear he could not understand. So there is question one. What happens when Arthur charges at GSJ? His horse stops in his tracks, his arms fall to his sides, Arthur's not the horse, and he was overcome with fear. And then he says, "This is the devil's work," which is your first quotation, and that's what Arthur said when he charged against GSJ.
"It is the castle of my mistress, the Queen Morgana le Fay."
Oops. "It is the castle of my mistress, the Queen Morgana le Fay," said the damsel, riding up and mocking at Arthur with cruel hard words.
"Have pity," said Arthur. "I will grant whatsoever you may desire." "Pity I will have,"
boomed GSJ, the knight of Tarn.
"Go hence now for a year and a day, but first give me a royal word as a king and knight of the Round Table that you will return, and return alone, and I will set you this quest." "Go where you will, and ask of all you meet what thing it is that women most desire in this world. What it is I know well, and if you can tell me truly, a year hence you shall go free, I swear it. And I am a true knight, whoever I may serve at this time. But if you find not the true answer, then I will slay you here upon this magic bridge and cast your body into the dark waters. Go!"
He waved his arms as he spoke, uttering the last word in a great roar, and the king's horse spun around almost on its hind legs, bolted up the rocky road onto the forest in a mad gallop of terror, nor could King Arthur rein it in for many a long mile. Before the moon rose, he came to Carlisle, and there Sir Gawain met him, and heard all of the adventure.
"I scarcely know what to do," said King Arthur. "My sister plots my death, and with a new and terrible power, and I know not how to withstand it."
"Surely this is the last stroke against the might of Logres," said Gawain. "If we can defeat this evil, this once more, it shall not again come us clothed in evil magic."
"One thing I know," said King Arthur. "I must keep mine oath and return to the knight a year hence. In the meantime, I will seek for an answer to his riddle."
"And I will also seek." So, question 2. What quest does DSR give? Well, Arthur must travel all over and ask every woman he meets what it is that women desire most. After 1 year and a day, Arthur must return and give him the answers. And his nephew Gawain decides to join him for this. A year had gone by when King Arthur and Sir Gawain rode once more through the forest of Inglewood to speak with Sir GSJ. Sadly, they went on their way, for Arthur carried with him 2 full books filled with the answers which he and Gawain had collected from all over the country. He felt sure that none of them would satisfy the knight. Not far from the end of their journey, they came upon a thick woodland across a bare upland of moor and marsh, and they met suddenly with a lady dressed in fine clothes and riding a great white horse. Her garments were of the richest, and many a jewel sparkled and shone about her. But as Gawain looked at her, he turned pale, and King Arthur crossed himself as if in the presence of something uncanny. For she was the loveliest lady that ever the eye of man rested upon. Her face was as red as the sinking sun, and long yellow teeth showed between wide, weak lips. Her head was set upon a great thick neck, and she herself was fat and unshapely as a barrel. Yet the horror of her seemed to lie in something more than the hideousness of her looks, for in her great squinting red-rimmed eyes there lurked a strange and terrifying shadow of fear and suffering. Ugh. So there she is.
"All hail King Arthur!" she cried in a shrill, cracked voice. "Speak to me nicely now, for your life depends on it."
"Lady," said Arthur gravely, "I give you greetings, nor should my greetings change were you the greatest lady or the meanest lass in the land."
"I thank you," the lady replied. "Now listen well. I know upon what errand you ride, and of the riddle you must answer this day or die. And the answers you have already found are not worth a louse." She laughed her cackling screech at this. And then, suddenly serious, she went on. "The true answer I can tell you, and tell you I will upon one condition."
"Oh, what is your will, lady?"
asked King Arthur as she paused.
"Your word as a king and a knight of Logres, that a knight of yours as nobly born as you shall be my husband this day."
Well, this is interesting. So this is probably a time where Arthur is very thankful that he's married, because he obviously can't marry her. So this lady is so hideous. And how hideous is she? This is question 3. Gawain turns pale, like he's going to faint, and Arthur actually crosses himself, like you would do in church, because he almost feels like she's an evil presence. So he has a request. And question 4 is that request. So the request is this. Ragnell, being GSJ's sister, knows the answer to the riddle, which she will gladly give in exchange for marrying one of Arthur's knights. So, luckily for Arthur, he's already married, so it's not going to be him. But it appears some other knight will have to bite the bullet, so to speak. So,
Well, that I cannot promise,
said Arthur, looking her in the face and turning aside, sick with horror, try though he might to keep his face composed.
Then you ride to your death,
chuckled the loathly lady, her eyes a little darker with pain than before.
Stay,
cried Sir Gawain suddenly. I am King Arthur's nephew and a knight of the Round Table. If I take you as my wife, will you tell the answer to Sir GSJ's riddle?
Oh, yes, indeed, Sir Gawain, surely and indeed I will,
she made answer eagerly.
Bethink you what you do, exclaimed King Arthur. This is too great a sacrifice to make.
Yes, how terrible. You must marry a woman that is not attractive.
Yet I will make it,
Lord King of Logres, said Sir Gawain quietly. Lady, I pledge you my knightly word to take you in lawful marriage if you will save the life of my uncle, King Arthur.
Ride on then to Tarn, said the lady, and when you return I shall be waiting for you here, and we will return together to Carlisle.
Then she came beside King Arthur and told him the answer to the riddle. A little while after this, Arthur came once more to the dark tarn and the evil castle of the knight. Sir Gawain tarried on the edge of the forest, and there, sitting in his great horse as before, was Sir GSJ.
Greetings, King Arthur, he cried. You are a brave man to keep your tryst so well. Come now, tell me the answer to my question. What do women desire most in this world? For if you reply rightly, I swear that you shall suffer no harm for me.
So, question 5, here comes the answer. Then King Arthur opened the 2 books and read from them as many answers he had collected. But at the end, Sir GSJ laughed till the hills echoed dark around Tarn.
You are but a dead man, King Arthur, he cried. Pomp, state, fine clothes, mirth, love, luxury, idleness, and the rest of the nonsense you have been reading me, none is the true answer. Come now, bow down your head, that I may strike it from your shoulders and carry it to my lady Queen Morgana le Fay.
I'll tarry a little, said King Arthur. As I come on my way, I met a loathly lady on the moor. Loathly, not lovely. And she told me that what women desire most is to rule over men, yea, even over the greatest. So, notice the saying is, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, and it has nothing to do with dad being happy there. So, do women want to rule over men? I don't know, but this is what they say. So that is your answer to question 5. Then the knight of Tarn swore a terrible oath.
It is that accursed witch, the Lady Ragnell.
Which is interesting, because that's actually his sister, he cried.
She has betrayed us, thinking to escape, but escape she never shall. Go your ways, King Arthur, for you are safe from me, and if I may free myself from the rule of Queen Morgana le Fay, maybe you will find a place for me at your court. I am a rough fellow and rude of speech, but true to mine oaths, faithful to my lords, and a mighty fighter.
Come when you will, said King Arthur. The realm of Logres is wide enough for any who would serve it truly and with a pure heart. But Sir GSJ had swung round his horse, and with a cry as of one in pain, he galloped along the drawbridge and into Hewin Castle by the dark ways of the town, and beside him the portcullis clanged down and the drawbridge swung screechingly in its place like a tomb closing some evil ghost of the night. Slowly King Arthur rode back the way he had come and found Sir Gawain waiting for him at the edge of the forest, rejoicing to see him return safely from his terrible adventure. Oh, to me the joy of one freed from death, said King Arthur sadly. But to you I fear the sorrow of an evil that only death can cure. So I Guess he'd rather be dead than marry an ugly woman. Interesting. I wonder how he'll feel about that later in the book. Back they rode through the forest, and upon the bleak moorland found the loathly Lady Ragnell waiting them.
I have saved you, King Arthur, she cried in her shrill, cracked voice, and now the gallant Gawain shall be my husband. Ride before us to Carlisle, Lord King, so that you may bid welcome with due honour to the bravest knight of Logres and his bride.
Sadly, King Arthur set spurs to his horse and hastened through the forest of Inglewood till he came to his castle. There he gathered the knights and ladies of the court together, told them something of his adventure, and bade them prepare for a great wedding. That evening he and Queen Guinevere rode through the streets to the city gate with a noble following of knights and ladies, while all the people of Carlisle lined the way ready to cheer the bride and bridegroom. They came to the gate and waited there a while until they saw Sir Gawain come riding slowly along the high road from the forest, with a lady upon a white horse beside him. They could see she was clad in rich garments, and that the setting sun flashed and reflected many jewels, and all those who were gathered to meet them began to cheer. But suddenly a hush fell upon them, and the cheers faded into groans and murmured into silence when they saw the hideous twisted face of Lady Ragnell, the horror of her great squinting eyes, and how she sat hunched on her horse like a great bale of straw. Now, they know she is wealthy and royal and knightly and all this stuff, and she might be a wonderful, wonderful woman, but they're just looking at her looks and automatically deciding she is some sort of monster. But Sir Gawain presented her to the king and queen as if she had been the fairest lady in all the world. So good for him. And she grinned and chuckled as Sir Launcelot and Sir Tristram, Sir Gareth and Sir Geraint, and many other noble knights came in turn to kiss her hand, but the words stuck in their throats when they would have wished Sir Gawain joy, and in silence that gay cavalcade rode up the street into the great minster, and same silence falling suddenly upon the watching crowds as the bride and bridegroom rode by. Without a falter in his voice, Sir Gawain took to wife the Lady Ragnell in the presence of all the people before the high altar, and led her to the place of honour in the hall of the castle where the great feast was to be made. So Gawain's sticking to his word here, and he's not even flinching. But the mirth and gaiety were forced at the feast, all looking with loathing and horror upon the Lady Ragnell as she sat by Gawain, guzzling and slobbering all over her food and wine, and not one of them but pitied Sir Gawain and marvelled over this strange wedding. Early the feast broke up, and Gawain, his face pale and drawn with suffering, led his bride to the great shadowy chamber in the castle keep, where the candles flickered on the embroidered hangings and the shadows fell darkly among the rushes on the stone floor. Now he's having second thoughts here. When they were alone beside the great bedstead, curved and curtained and spread with fine linen, the Lady Ragnell said, her voice more hateful now than it was thick with drink, as was harsh and cracked.
Dear husband, beloved Lord Gawain, kiss me now as a bridegroom should kiss his bride, for now indeed we are husband and wife until death us part.
She laughed a cackling laugh that choked into a wheezy silence. Gawain drew near to her, his face paler still and his eyes glazed with agony, but he caught the deep agony behind her eyes, and the repulsive horror of her face grew pale and indistant. So he's suddenly able to look past her face and almost into her soul, as he bent down and kissed her on the lips. Then he turned away with a cry of anguish and leant against the wall with his face hidden in his arms and his shoulders shaking with sobs that he could not keep down. So apparently he's still not quite over the look thing. Gawain, my dear Lord Gawain, said a voice behind him, a low, sweet, tremulous with love. Slowly he turned as if in a dream where the loathly Lady Ragnell had stood a moment before. He beheld the loveliest maid that his eyes had ever seen. Tall and slim she stood there, her white arms held out toward him, the sweet face with the lovely eyes and the shining with love for him. Lady, he gasped in wonderment and bewilderment. Lady, who are you? Where's my wife, Ragnell? I am the Lady Ragnell, and your wife, if you will have me, came the answer in the low, sweet voice that fell like a gentle wind in the deep night of his tortured mind. By your great love and your noble sacrifice you have loosed me from the evil enchantment of that wicked Queen Morgana le Fay has laid upon me and upon my brother, the brave knight, Sir GSJ. But still I am not altogether free. So apparently she's like the toad that the princess kisses and turns into a prince. Well, apparently when you kiss her, she turns from the picture on the left to the one on the right. But I am not altogether free, for only during 12 hours out of each 24 shall I be as you see me now, for during the other half of each day I must wear again the hideous form to which you were wedded. Choose now whether by day or by night I shall be fair, whether by night or by day I shall be foul. So, answer to question 6, what happens when Gawain kisses Ragnell? Well, she turns into a beautiful lady. But that's not the end of it. So, questions 7 and 8 coming up here. Gawain stood as one bewildered and amazed, and Ragnell went on. Bethink you now, my lord, if I am foul by day, what you must endure when I come into the court as your wife, and am seen by all the knights and ladies of Logres. Bethink you also what you must endure if I am foul by night, when you and I are alone together, when you come home weary after the long day and find the shrill-mouthed whore waiting to disturb your rest. Choose now which it shall be. So he can pick. She's either going to be ugly during the day when everybody else can see him and her together, and pretty for just him at night, or she can be pretty when everybody else can see them together and ugly for him at night. Interesting. That would be an interesting thing. You say, well, I pick you to be pretty at night because I think you're beautiful no matter, or during the day because I think you're beautiful no matter what, and you'll be beautiful to me at night, even if no one else sees it? Or do you say, I want you to be beautiful at night for me because I don't care what anybody else thinks? So, interesting. However, I think Gawain cops out here. Lady, said Sir Gawain presently, standing before her with bowed head, in this matter the word rests not with me. Bethink you what you must endure by day, when the knights and ladies eye you with loathing, draw away in horror, fall silent when you speak. Bethink you also what you must endure at night, when I, who have seen you lovely by day, cannot overcome the loathing that I will fill me when you draw near to me in the form of that whore. Which is your greatest suffering, and you alone must choose which you are able to bear. So, he doesn't say he will still love her even though she's ugly. He'll put up with it, but he'll be sad. So, interesting. So, this curse does not break the curse. In 7 and 8, Gawain must now decide, because the curse is she is only pretty for 12 hours a day and she's ugly for the other 12. So, he has to pick which it's going to be. So, there is pretty much question 7. And so he decides, he gives the choice to her because she must bear the insults that if she chooses ugly during the day, and she will see his disappointment every day if she chooses to be pretty for the world to see. So he's not going to accept her, I guess, if she is ugly. But, yeah. Oh, Gawain, Gawain, cried Ragnell, and a moment later she was weeping in his arms. There was never a knight in all the world so noble and so unselfish as you. By this your choice, you leave the choice to me. You have undone the enchantment forever. In the fair form in which you see me now shall be yours both day and by night until the fated hour comes, wherein I must leave you. So, how does he break the curse? He gives the choice to her because he figures, whatever she's going to have to endure, whether it's his disappointment at night because he just can't love an ugly woman, or whether it's everyone else's disappointment during the day because they're going to refuse to get to know him. So, kind of reminds us of Fiona in Shrek. But we have many years of happiness before that parting, and well you deserve all the happiness the world can give you. On the morrow there was such joy in King Arthur's court, because she was pretty now, as had never been seen before, nor was there any honour too great that could be done to Sir Gawain, because he went ahead and married an ugly woman anyway, and then she turned out to be pretty, and his lovely bride, the Lady Ragnell. For 7 years they lived happily together, no couple more happily in all the wide realm of Logres, and then only on the appointed day Ragnell went from Sir Gawain forever. Some say that she died, but others say she fled away into the forests of Wales, and there bore a son to Sir Gawain, who would in time become one of the noblest of all the knights of the Round Table. But whether that son's name was Percival, the old tales do not tell us. Some call him simply the Fair Unknown. but his adventures were so like those of Percival that we may well believe that in a tale now lost this was indeed the name of the son of Sir Gawain and Lady Ragnell. So he ends up having the son Sir Percival, who is going to be the greatest knight of King Arthur's court. Anybody remember why? If you do remember why, go ahead and write it under where I posted this as well. I'm kind of curious to see if anybody remembers that. And while we have all those questions, do not forget this to answer this. Why does Morgana keep trying to kill Arthur? Why? Okay? All right, if you have any questions, let me know. Hit that like button, hit subscribe. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back later this week with Sir Percival of Wales, Book 2, Chapter 7. All right, have a good one. Bye, 5th grade.